Hi, I'm Sam, your resident fantasy reader.
And I'm Morgan, your romance reader, and we welcome you to Just One More Page,
where it's never just one more page.
I'm tired. I'm very tired. You can probably tell in this episode, Morgan's gonna be very tired and very cranky because I am tired.
Clayton's going through a sleep regression. He's waking up every hour on the hour all night long, and I want to die.
Yeah.
Slow. I didn't want to die a slow death. I just want to fall asleep and sleep for 8 hours straight. That would be beautiful.
And that's why I'll never have kids, because I value my sleep. And I want to sleep. I'm very selfish with my sleep. Probably after we're filming this, I'm going to take a long nap. But
well, thank God for my husband, because he's taking him tonight so I can sleep before work tomorrow.
So Sam, how's your week been? Anything new? Anything exciting?
I got my car fixed. I don't sound like a race car anymore, so that was exciting.
Oh, was that exciting or not exciting for NASCAR fans?
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure my neighbors are going to be very grateful that tomorrow when I turn my car on at 5:30 in the morning, nobody will hear me turn my car on.
Oh yeah, I would. I think if I was your neighbor, I would appreciate that. Even though my neighbors across the street, they are the loudest people. They'll have a conversation at 2:00 in the morning, just like talking outside.
Oh my!
Like, please, I feel like I'm turning into like a cat lady without a cat, because I'm like, please be quiet. Let me sleep.
First thing in the morning on Saturday when you're trying to sleep and all you hear is my car go.
Yeah, like, I would not be happy. I value my sleep. I love sleeping. Oh my goodness. So this week at my work is our like appreciation week. We have it like every year, and this year has been so much fun. There was like we've dressed up every single day. It's like kind of like Spirit Week. But for your work, which is weird to say, but like there's like dressed up like a twin, and I feel like me and my friend, we were the only people that actually went hard for it. We were wearing like the glasses, same necklace, same headband. It was a little bit too intense, but we've had like free food all week, and there's been a bunch of games, and it's been so much fun. And there was like eating competitions, which, by the way, I can never do.
No.
I feel like I would choke because I'm already so clumsy. I feel like I would just be like, I don't know, I'd probably just choke, or else I would spit everything out. And yeah, they had a pickle eating competition, and they were like, Morgan, you should come join. I'm like, I would rather die, because I am not a pickle type of gal at all. But no, thank you. I'd rather not.
If they were sweet pickles, I'd do it. I'm not dill.
I think these were like dill pickles. Were
too sour.
Too gross. But anything else new, Sam?
Nope, just another week at school and life. That's about it.
Yeah, I feel like I had other things. Oh, the only other thing I want to talk about is that I need to know whether or not NSYNC is going to be coming to tour, because I need to make sure I have money saved up, because I will like give up one of my kidneys to go see them in concert. I just want to let that be known, because I am going to be at one of their concerts. And also, I feel like if the first 2 digits of your birth year does not start with 19, you are not allowed to go to see NSYNC in concert. These are for the old people, okay? They're not for you. Yeah, so that's the only other thing that's in my life, is that I've been watching a lot of TikToks about NSYNC. And I'm already having my hand what I'm planning on doing. Oh, and I'm also planning my Halloween costume too. That's another thing I'm doing, which is, I feel like, gonna be fun. Oh, did you figure out we're gonna dress up Clayton for Halloween?
Yeah, we're dressing him up like a monkey this year.
Or is this like a theme, or is this just...
we called him Chunky Monkey when he was like little, like when we first brought him home. And now we just call him Monkey all the time. And so I was like, well, make him a monkey. Because originally I was going to make him a deer. And then like Derek's got a bunch of hunting clothes and stuff. And I was going to like make it like a hunter themed kind of thing. But we call him Monkey all the time. And I thought there's like a bunch of really, really cute like monkey costumes. And so I'm probably going to dress him up as a monkey this year.
Oh, fun. Well, if you want to know, I'm dressing up my dog, either like Barbie or a bumblebee. I don't know what. Because Marley is my dog. Or Marley's my dog, but also my child. But I guess let's just talk about the book because I feel like me and you both are so tired right now. But um, so this week we are going to be discussing our first ever gothic fantasy novel that's called A Study in Drowning, and this is written by Ava Reid. Now that I've finished the book, I feel like I can explain what this book is a little bit better because last week I was like, I don't know what this book is about. I'm confused. I was a little confused reading the book, to be honest with you. But this book follows Effy, who has been haunted by images of a fairy king, and the only peace she has been able to find is in the pages of her favorite fairy tale novel that's written by Myrddin. The story goes that a young girl who falls in love with a fairy king and then destroys him. When a competition is posted for a student to help redesign the late writer's manor, Effy applies and is accepted as the winner. Except when Effy gets into the manor, she finds that it's on the brink of crumbling into the hungry sea. On top of that, she is not the only student there staying at the manor. Preston, a young literature scholar, is studying the works of Emery to prove that he is a fraud. As the two students investigate the writer's legacy, they piece together clues through his letters, books, diaries, and soon discover the house's foundation isn't the only thing that can't be trusted. Now, I do want to give some trigger warnings about this book. So, this book does talk about um, essay, grooming, drowning, sexism, talks of death. I wouldn't say it's scary. It's more of a thriller than like a scary book. Wouldn't you say, Sam?
It's got its like creepy vibes to it.
I mean, I'm not really into scary things, and I felt like I wasn't too scared
Yeah, it's
about
just creepy.
anything. It's a little odd. The book is odd,
Yeah.
but yeah, Sam, what did you think?
I liked it. I actually really, really liked it a lot. I gave it 4 stars. It took a little bit to kind of like, and as most fantasy books go, kind of piece together what was going on because you had like the Argantians and the Illyrians, and then like how they kind of fit together and who was who. Luckily, the cast was kind of small, so you could kind of like follow it a little bit easier. The book itself isn't very long. But overall, I think it was a good story, good pacing. Kind of saw the ending coming, but at the same time, like there were still pieces where I was like it was an enjoyable story. Overall, I really, really liked it, and I gave it 4 stars.
So I think I gave it like 3.5, 4 stars because but I will fully admit, Sam, that I was dragging my feet to read this book because I don't think it's I don't think it's surprising at all, but I'm not really a fantasy reader at all. I love my romance books. I love thrillers, but fantasy is something I'm usually not a huge fan of. So when I was like, I have to read this book, but there's other books I want to read, I kind of read the other books that I should have read. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, oh shoot, I got to read this book. So I read this book in like a day and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly wish I didn't because I feel like with this book, there's so many heavy topics and there's so many things that are happening that I feel like you just need time to like digest the story. And I don't
Yeah.
really think I had enough time to like really sit down and digest the story and really think about what each thing really means. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those stories, kind of like that book we read where it's something about smiles. We read in the beginning of the year is by Amber
Yeah, like
McBride.
everybody smiles or something like
Yeah,
that. I don't
it
know.
kinda reminded me of that where it's like they're talking about something magical, but they actually mean something serious.
Yeah, it
It's
was that
kind of
poetry esque book.
Yeah, that's kinda what this kinda remind me of a little bit, where she's talking about real life issues, but she's adding, like, a fancy twist to it, which was kinda interesting, and,
Mm-hmm.
I did really enjoy it for what it was. I think that it was a little slow in the beginning where I was like, "Oh, am I gonna like this?" And I was a little bit confused about the world building and everything, but once she actually gets to the manor, I actually start to really, really like the book, and I
Mm-hmm.
love the relationship that she had with Preston, although I do feel like the romance did come out of nowheres. I wish it was a little bit more of a build up, but I really did like it. I felt like it was a interesting take on a modern times like fairy tale novel that does have a little twist of like what's like being a woman. Now,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that this book is based like back then, like in the 1900s, like early 1900s, or is it just like in another world itself?
I'm so glad you asked because I did research. Okay, so this whole novel
Ooh.
is actually based on a Welsh folklore, and I am not going to say this correctly, and I don't even care, but it is called the Cantor Gwaelod, which is also known as the Sunken City, or also known as the Welsh Atlantis. And when you read the book, because it's a study in drowning, that'll make a lot more sense. But it's actually based very heavily on Welsh folklore and the English colonialism, and taking a lot of like the Welsh traditions and fairy tales and making them their own. So a lot of this story actually, ironically, has a lot of callback to that Welsh sunken city folklore. So I thought that was super interesting. I was doing research for a very specific reason, and then I found this and I went down a rabbit hole.
Ooh, I love a good rabbit hole. I tried looking at the names of the characters and nothing really popped up. So that's interesting though, because I did feel like it was based on like something.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know. I like the world, but like I felt like at times I was really quite frustrated with the things that were happening. There's certain, I guess I can't spoil anything, but there's like a certain moment where I'm like, really? No one's gonna say anything? No one's gonna speak up? Did you like Effie as a character though? That's another thing I wanted to ask is, do you like Effie as a character? Because I wasn't the biggest fan of her sometimes.
I feel like she's kind of what's the phrase I'm looking for? She is the product of her environment,
Mhm. Yeah.
and she's taught. I mean, I can't really say too much without like giving a whole bunch of this book away. But there is a very like highly sexist undertone to this book. And well, actually, it's not even undertone. It's very overtly said to her multiple times in this book about how she's just a female and she doesn't understand. And here, take these pills because you're hysterical. I didn't find her insufferable. I found her kind of like the victim of her environment.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I do feel really bad for her and I really feel bad for the things she's been through. And there's a scene I do want to talk about that reminds me of a New York Times article I read last week or a couple weeks ago that I do want to talk about.
Hmm.
But I mean, do you have anything else you would like to discuss, Sam, or would you like to go into our spoiler section?
Let's go into our spoiler section.
Sure. So if you guys would like to read A Study in Drowning, then please do go do so and then come back and listen to us talk about this. If you'd like to not be spoiled or want to check out our other episodes, then please check out our last week's episode in which we read a book by Susan Lee called The Name Drop. You should definitely go check out that episode. It's about Kate, like a Korean CEO and a girl who switched places. It's super interesting. Go check it out. But if you don't mind being spoiled, then stay along and listen to me, Sam, spoil this book. So, Sam,
Morgan.
what would you like to talk about first? What do you want to go into? You want to
I
talk about her
was
jumping out of this car? Because that was surprising to me.
no, I want to talk about the fact that I thought Preston was going to be the Fairy King.
Ooh, yeah, you know what? I thought so too for a minute there. Because like I felt like that would have been like, well, that's a tip. I feel like a twist. I feel like people would kind of predict coming.
Hmm.
But
Here's
did you?
my question. Here's my
Mhm.
question. Do you think the Fairy King is dead?
Do I think the Fairy King is dead? No,
Yes.
absolutely not. I think that I think once again, I think that this does have to do with folklore, but I kind of feel like the Fairy King represents this part in men. And
Hmm.
I'm just gonna be speaking out of my butt, so please just excuse me as I get my train of thought out. But I just kind of feel like the Fairy King represents a part men or parts of men that do stuff to women, that
Hmm.
assault women or think a certain way. And that's why, like, the lady was like, oh, yeah, the Fairy King is taking over my son and took over my husband. I kind of feel like, in some way, it was representing the fact that some men or do this kind of stuff, assault people or,
They have
assault
like a
women.
sense of entitlement.
Yes. So I don't really know if the Fairy King is a real person, but then again, at the end of the book, it's revealed that Preston is like, "Hey, I heard those bells ring. Did you?" And it's revealed
Hmm.
like, "Oh, they kind of saw the same thing or heard the same thing." But
Hmm.
if this was a folklore thing, yeah, no, the Fairy King is definitely a real because the Fairy King died in such a undramatic way, Sam.
Well, so it was playing back to the story of Angharad, or however you say it. Effie almost like completes the story. And so how she defeats him is how he's defeated in the book anyway. And so it feels, if you weren't paying attention to the story, it feels anticlimactic. But if you are paying attention to the fact that like that's how the original story ended, then it makes sense. It's kind of like Effie kind of like completed this whole journey. Like she had read the book and she loved it, and she was in this her favorite author's home, and then she had to face the fairy king who she thought had been following her this whole time, and just to find out that like he's this like terrible awful person, and she ends up destroying him the same way he's destroyed in the book.
I don't
So
know. I kind of felt like I wanted more of a fight, but also, do you think that in the book she like shows him the reflection
mhm,
of this of reflection, that's kind of what kills him. But
mhm.
do you think that in real life, I'm just making this up, but like I kind of feel like she stabbed the guy and then she made up her head like, well, he saw his reflection, he died on his own. Um I don't know, Sam.
Yeah,
Um
I think Preston might be the next fairy king after hearing those bells. And the only reason why I say
oh,
that
do you
is,
think so?
yeah, because the only reason why I say that is because in the legend that I was reading on, there's a secondary. So there's two legends that kind of go side by side. There's
Mhm.
that sunken city one, and then there's another one. I don't really know what the name of it is, but it's written by Lys Halig, which
Mhm.
Llyr. I mean, that's kind of where they coincide with each other. And it says that the bells are heard when danger is coming.
Oh. I really hope not, because I love Preston. He was one of my favorite characters. I like the fact that when one, Preston is like how protective he was of her. I also really like the fact that when, by the way, there is a random sex scene, but it's not like intense, it's YA.
Yeah,
But
it's
like I
fade to
like
black.
yeah, but I like the fact that Preston was like, "Are you sure?" And then
Mm,
he's like, "I'm gonna treat you like not the way that other people have treated you." And I love the fact that he's like, "Even after we leave, I still want to protect you. I still want to be with you." And that I was like, "Oh, my heart! I love this guy. I love him." But, like, I don't know, I really hope that he's not made into the fairy king, because I would be really sad about that. Now, did the whole twist when in which you find out that the guy who wrote it, it was actually his wife that wrote it, who he basically groomed. I wanna say right now that the Arthur, who was Emery, groomed his wife,
yeah.
who was writing the story.
And they spoke about that too because they
Yeah.
said that she was, what, 18 and he was
Mm.
34.
Yeah.
Basically, her father then like sold her to Emrys for the royalties of her own story written under Emrys's name. I was like, this is so messed up. She's like,
It
it's basically like my dowry. I was like, no, no, you just got
no.
sold.
Which is so sad, because I do think that a lot of times women's voices, even nowadays, in which, we're like in the 2000s, that sometimes women's voices are muted
Mm-hmm.
by other men, which is really quite sad. But I was quite like shocked though when they did find that lockbox and it had
Mm-hmm.
the naked photos of her in it, which was a little bit thing of me being like, oh my God, what happened? Because like I also kind of felt like kind of mirrored Effie's
Mm-hmm.
experience too, with her being groomed by her teacher, which, by the way, I'm so glad at the end of the novel, Effie was like, no, I want him to be fired. Because not only was she thinking about herself, but she was thinking about other women that will find themselves in this office with this teacher
Mm-hmm.
and being taken advantage of. Was there any part of the story that you felt like could have been done better? Or was there any part of the story that you felt like you wanted more from?
I don't know. I wish that we had met Emrys's wife a little bit sooner instead of her
Yeah.
being like the ghost. I want like it would have been nicer to have had the story of her having been like sold and everything, because I mean Emrys is dead, so it doesn't matter if she like appears, but she's been this like mysterious figure from the beginning. Like she's making Effie stay, quote unquote making Effie stay in the cottage. I don't know if that's Ianto or if that was Effie or the wife, but
I think
I
that was
wish
the
we met her.
wife, that the wife told her that she did that in order to protect her from the Fairy King to come. But then again, it makes me think about maybe she put her there in order because she knows that her son would touch her or attack
Maybe.
her.
But I just wish we like got more from her than like the last couple chapters and then this massive info dump.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of info dump. There was like I felt like the whole end of the book is like, well, this blah 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 happened, this happened, blah blah, and I kind of felt like I wish that there's more twists and turns. If
Hmm.
that makes sense. Like I wish that things weren't so easily found for them because it's like they went to the wife's father's house and they find her letters and it's like I felt like things happened way too fast. But then again, this book is like you said before, it's really quite short.
Hmm.
So there is a scene in which he is where Preston is basically going to be sacrificed.
Yep.
Do you think that that sacrifice like that would have worked? Or do you think the guy was just crazy? Do you think that the son was just crazy?
No, because we like they'd proven that the Fairy King was real, and it kind of goes with like, do you follow the Argantian frame of thought or the Llyr frame of thought? Because the
Mm.
Argantians don't believe and the Llyrs do, and ironically, Preston's like both.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like there's some truth to their fairy tales, and like it may have worked. Because
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about the sleepers and how they defend the Lyrians and from the second drowning and stuff. I think that even if it wasn't something that could work, all folklore is based on some level of truth. So I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe it could have worked. Maybe it wouldn't. Who know? We'll never know.
Yeah.
Um, but if I mean, we were proven that the fairy king was real because
Yes.
he was destroyed by his reflection, or at least like
Well,
momentarily destroyed.
see, part of me kind of feels like I said before, I kind of feel like she is in such a trauma daze that she sees it as she destroyed him by seeing his reflection, but
Hmm.
I feel like she stabbed him. I feel like she killed the son, and in her mind, she feels like, well, the fairy king did it.
So,
Like,
do you think that Effie's an unreliable narrator?
I think so. Because I think she's so young, she's so full of trauma. I don't really feel like the things that she's been through is reliable. Like I just kind of feel like the fairy king in her head is someone who is evil. It's like she
Hmm.
kind of views herself in that story because that story she so desperately wants to be that girl because she did fall in love with her mentor and the mentor did
Hmm.
turn his back on her and was like, "Oh, she did it. She she put out for me. I didn't do it." Like, and we all know that's not true, but I
Hmm.
kind of feel like she put herself in that fairy tale as the girl who's able to fall in love but also overcome these things and destroy the fairy king
Hmm.
to come out of this outcome. So I don't think she's a reliable narrator at all. What do you think,
Hmm.
Sam?
I don't know. I mean, I'm back and forth on how, because the the whole story is based on like the North versus the South and
Hmm.
whether or not fairy tales are real, and maybe the gunshot she's hearing is just thunder and that's why she's supposed to stay medicated, but then she doesn't take her medicine. Because there's a lot of very like focused time spent on the fact that she takes these meds. So who knows? Maybe she's, I don't know, schizophrenic or some form of mental disease, mental disorder that we aren't like told about.
Yeah.
And that because we're seeing everything through her eyes, it kind of like leads us to believe what she's seeing, but what she's seeing may not be real. So it's a
Yeah.
giant question because Preston isn't correcting her. And even he says, like, I heard the bells too, or I heard the bells. And I'm starting to believe what you're saying, that you saw what you saw. So is she having a psych break and we're just following along with it? Or she's always had a psych break? Or is this really happening? That's kind of the big question. And then when Preston at the end said, I heard the bells, did you hear them too? It's like, well, did everything happen the way she said it did, or did it not happen? And then that's kind of the big question.
Yeah, I see. That's the only thing that makes me want to stop and say, well, maybe it's real, but because of the fact that Preston's like, oh, did you hear those bells? Because I used to hear them all the time. But I don't remember Sam there being bells. Like, I don't remember her talking about hearing bells.
And that's kind of how I ended up down my rabbit hole, because I was like, what about, because they were talking about the 9 bells or something at some point in the story, but nobody ever said anything about bells ringing. And so when Preston was like, I heard the bells, did you hear them too? I literally started like Googling if someone could explain the ending to me, because I'm like, did I miss something? Am I not understanding this? And then that's how I ended up down this whole Welsh folklore rabbit hole that I went down. And then finding out that, like, they say that this sunken city rings the bells when danger is coming. And I was like, oh, that's super interesting. And that, I think that might be just what the author was trying to like allude to. But if you didn't know the folklore, you didn't know what she was alluding to.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that adds more to it too. I don't know. The book itself, I really did enjoy for what it was. I found it to be really interesting. The first half, I was like, I don't know about this, but then like later on, actually really enjoyed it. I do wish there was a little bit more of like I said before, more of a world building and more like we get to learn more about the two different sides, or I guess more solid facts that the Fairy King was actually real.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wish that the mom she got some justice from her mom, because her mom literally left her outside to die,
Mm-hmm.
which is another huge thing of trauma. This poor girl has been through so much trauma.
I know. And then
Like,
Preston's like, you're a changeling? And she's like, I am a changeling. And it's like, and that's a whole nother level of folklore rabbit holes you can go down. Like, there's a lot of allusion to a lot of different, like, fairy tales in this book. But I liked it overall. I mean, I enjoyed the pacing, I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed how it kind of unraveled a little by little. And then just questioning, did what happened actually happen, or is she just kind of having a little bit of a psych break and we just went along for the ride? Who knows?
yeah. I mean, hey, I'm here for it. At least it didn't end like that last book we read in which she stabbed someone, after her psych break. So let's just say it ended in a happy way, as happy as it can be. But
Right.
if you guys are curious, next week we're going to be reading another fantasy novel, which I'm sure Sam is very happy about. I was
Yay.
going to say this one actually seemed really interesting to me. It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me a lot of this movie called Hilgo.
Hugo.
Hilago? No, it's like
Hidalgo.
Yes, that's what this book reminds me of. But so next week we're going to be reading a book called The Darkest Descent, and this is a fantasy young adult novel that's loosely based on Jewish folklore. So this is another book to do with folklore, so that's going to be interesting. But this book follows a young girl who's trying to save her family's farm by joining a cross-country horse race known for its high body count as well as a large prize. In order to win, she recruits Ariel. I'm not really quite sure how to say this word. A name. I do apologize, but who is a talented but unlicensed enchanter who can create golems in place of enchanted animals. There is Damien, who is a dashing young lord who I know will have my heart, but he is in the midst of a fierce succession battle, and they have their own reasons to help her, well as their own blood feud to avenge. But yeah, so that's the book we're going to be reading next week. But if you guys would like to support our podcast, feel free to rate us on Spotify, as it does push us out there. Also, remember to follow us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and basically anywhere else you can find a podcast. And also check out our YouTube channel, because we post there sometimes. But yeah, Sam, tell them about the rest of our socials.
Okay, if you think we are absolutely hilarious, which fun fact, my friends, we are. We do have a TikTok. It is just one more page podcast. And for all the pictures, stories, anything else I decide to post, we do have an Instagram. It is just one more page official. And we're also just one more page official on Threads as well, which honestly is just a stream of consciousness. Go ahead and follow that. It's entertaining as all get out. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I hope you have a fabulous Sunday, and we will talk to you all next week.
Okay, bye
Yeah.
guys.
Bye.